Shalom, I'm Angel. Welcome to Healthy in Heart, and I hope you are healthy in heart, mind, body, and soul today. So, this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, the court case is finally over. I'm sure there's talk of appeals and whatnot, but the verdict is in, and I didn't want to put anything out until after that, just because I respect the process. But I do have something to say on the matter. Men are abused as well. They can be victims of domestic violence just as well as women can. And the really bad thing is the women don't like to come forward and say that they're a victim of domestic abuse and domestic violence. But men less so, because our society is not accepting of men being victims of domestic abuse, or perhaps our society doesn't think that men can be. My husband was a victim of domestic violence. His ex-wife, his second wife, she threw knives at him, she threw pots at him, anything she could get she would throw at him. Often homeless, because she would kick him out for no reason. And so he lived in his vehicle. He lived in a basement of a house that he shared ownership with his mother. Domestic assault does not favor any gender. It can be in a male-male relationship, female-female relationship, male-female, and just because one person may look like, may show the bruises more so than someone else, doesn't mean the other party isn't there. Because my sister, dearly departed, she confessed to me that she knew exactly what buttons to push on her husband to get him to go off on her, and she would do it. Even though he nearly killed her several times. There are documented police records of him putting a bag over her head, of and trying to smother her, of pouring bleach over her body. Sorry, this is emotional. But there are people who will start things intentionally to get the attention that they want. And what I'm saying is not specifically about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but I do want to put this out there that it is a thing that males are also abused, and that women, even when they are abused, will often trigger the abuse themselves. Now, this isn't always the case. I was also a victim of domestic violence, and I did not do anything to trigger it. Not to goad them into a reaction or anything like that. So, we saw with the Depp Heard thing that that was just a very toxic relationship. And if we are in a toxic relationship, it is best for everyone concerned to get out of that relationship. Period. I don't care how much you love the person. And there's multiple types of abuse. There's physical abuse, obviously. There's emotional abuse. there is psychological abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse. But the abuse that you can suffer can have decades for you to travel on a healing path. It can take decades for you to heal from that. And that was the case of myself and my husband. It took us decades to get over it. But the number one thing is we had to get out of the relationship first. And we had to, put distance between that. And we had to seek out the resources that would be beneficial to us. Whether that be counseling, or talking with a friend, your spouse. If it's like us, when we got together, we were very healing for each other. In other words, we would not do things that would trigger the other person, or and being able to talk about what happened has allowed acceptance and healing, just being able to put it behind you. And the biggest part of that is just getting out of the relationship. That is the biggest part, and letting go, because some people just won't let go. They'll keep beating that dead horse until there's nothing left. And I hate that metaphor, but that's kind of what it is. They just won't let the person go. And we do have laws here in the United States that are meant to protect people from that, but they don't always work. So one of the first statements that Miss Heard came out with was that she's was so upset about the victims of domestic abuse, and it has set women back for that verdict. No, it didn't. No, it did not. Because genuine abuse is not somebody acting on a stage and they're acting very poorly because no one believes Ms. Heard because of the over emotionality. It was acting. It was what the emotions on her face, most of them were not real. And each case is dealt with and heard and prosecuted individually. So what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard was between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard in the courtroom. That does not affect other victims of domestic violence. But I do hope one good thing would come out of this is that men would come forward more, because that is, like I was saying earlier, something our society is not accepting of. And it men are less men are viewed as less than manly if they come forward and say, hey, I'm a victim of domestic abuse, or a domestic violence, whatever way you want to say it. And that's not the case. And the problem with that is men don't come forward because they are viewed as weaklings, weaker than, because, men are supposed to be strong, they're supposed to suck it up. But some things you can't suck up, and some things you shouldn't suck up, and you shouldn't sweep them under the rug and hide them and placate and whatnot. If you're a victim of domestic violence, you need to get out first of all, and you need to pursue prosecution, because people should be held accountable for their actions. And that's something my husband and I did not do. And I believe we would have healed a lot faster and perhaps a lot better if we had pursued, justice. The Bible tells us that justice is mine, I will repay, saith Yahweh. But we have laws in our countries and in our states and in our counties and cities to deal with situations so that we can live together in harmony. The male victim of domestic violence, the numbers on that are very, they're not accurate because the men don't come forward. And that is one thing I really hope changes, because men are often victims of domestic violence, and they should be protected just as well. And just because the whole Me Too movement, you should believe everyone, BS. No, every woman should not be believed. Every man should not be believed. You should evaluate each circumstance as an individual case, because that's exactly what it is. And that's all I have to say on the subject.
That button right there. It's that circle right there. That's that button. Huh.
So Todd heard me doing the recording my video about Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation and the domestic violence, and he has a few things he wants to add. To get maybe.
Yeah, the whole thing with the, first off, not a fan. All right, we don't follow Hollywood. We haven't even seen Pirates of the Caribbean until all this happened, and we're just kind of curious. Yeah, actually, it's kind of cool. I'm not really sure why we even started watching this stuff. It just kind of popped up.
Well, because we're people watchers, and we like to watch human behavior and to look at how human behavior can predict whether the person is lying or not. So I caught a glimpse of it on YouTube, and I was like, oh my gosh, honey, this is killer. Pun. About the how dishonest her behaviors were how her behaviors were leaching about how honest she was being on the stand. So that's how it started.
It was actually hard for me to watch a lot of times, because especially the hard part for me to watch was when Amber was on the stand. And the whole reason was, and that's why I understand what Johnny was going through. Watching her was like watching my ex-wife. And it was, at times it was painful, because it really brought back memories and everything. But at the same time, you just got to deal with that stuff. And I guess I forced myself to watch it, because you just have to get over it. And when we first met,
we were both broke.
I was really shattered, really, really bad. I had made, you carry your phone on the side of your britches, whatever, and then of course I had it turned the other direction so I can film stuff. It was actually in this house, in this room, and I would film her as we were having conversation. Of course, she had no clue, but I did it just in case I needed it. And she would watch them and would just cry. And it wasn't over how she was, it was the tone of my voice and how I was. And I had no clue how bad I really was. I really didn't. Johnny did this for a year, like a year and a half? Yeah.
No, 5 years.
No, I'm talking about being married to her.
Oh, yeah, married
for a year and a half. Yeah, try 15. And I kind of related to Johnny. And I was like, oh man, somebody's finally getting their story out and everything. And of course, Amber, believe it or not, Amber is a scratch on the surface to my ex-wife. My ex-wife was bipolar, schizophrenic with 5 different personalities. And unlike other schizophrenias, all of her personalities had the same name, just different personalities. Usually in schizophrenia, they have different names, different personalities.
Three split personalities. They have different.
My wife had the same name in all of them.
Unfortunately, her name was the same as mine.
Yeah. That's a different story as far as male goes.
And her trying to steal my identity.
But it really is, it's, as far as guys go, just because we have a penis doesn't mean we're guilty. All right? And I'm so sick and tired of it. And well, if you listen to the recordings, what Amber said, who's going to believe you, Johnny? You're a man. Well, that's what liberalism has done to this country. And I think this court case is a win for guys who have been through this. They say that, well, Johnny used to lash out too. Really? Imagine that. Like, I never did that. Self-defense is self-defense. Sometimes all you have to do in order to absolve a situation is to just cuss them out, because you had nothing left. There's nothing there. All you have left is to lash out. And that's the only evidence that she had. Period. We're going to stomp around the kitchen and slam some doors. Notice glass was never broken. I can't vouch for that. But I've had steak knives.
Yeah,
I've had frying pans. I've had plates, china plates thrown at me. I lost count of how many times I have ducked steak knives being thrown at me. And it was over stupid stuff. Like, I didn't hang the towel right on the rack. Or I didn't come in the room properly. Or the dog I had at the time wasn't scratching himself properly. And I'm not kidding about this. This was legitimate stuff. And it would just, and she would just go off on tangent. I used to always say that if at least 3 days went by where she was normal, the volcano was building. And I was scared to death. And this is with 2 little kids in the house, her kids, that I felt so sorry for. I raised the daughter since she was like a year and a half, 2 years old, who eventually stabbed me in the back. Why? She's her mother's daughter. And the son, I'm not even going there. But it's real. And of course, you get in a normal situation to where this is just your life. This is how you deal with it, and this is just how you do it. You get in a pattern. And
survival mode.
Yeah. So after about 3 days, if she would go really quiet, I would literally walk up to her and go, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm schizophrenic, and so am I." And she would just explode and get into anger. I'm like, now we're back to where we're supposed to be. Because that was the life I knew.
That was the normal.
That was the normal. And so she would just go off on tangent. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, if she was so great, then just let it go. You can't. Because the more every day that her normality goes, the more that volcano builds.
The more volatile.
And it's either have me go to emergency room because I'm half cut up in a million pieces, or just go ahead and just set it off and just let it go. Be done with it. And that's what I would do. I would just, after a few days, if things didn't happen, I would start getting really nervous about it and just set her off intentionally. Because if you didn't, it would be much worse. And 9 times out of 10, it would be extremely physical. A lot of times I would come home and I would walk in the kitchen door, and there was actually a few times I had to duck when I walked in because she was swinging a bat at me. Why? I wasn't coming in the right way. Or I made too much noise when I backed up in the driveway. Or the dog got in her way waiting for me to come in, and it pissed her off. It's people don't realize that, the whole Johnny Depp thing, I think, was a real to guys who have been through this. And, women go through this stuff too, and I understand that and everything, but really, as far as I'm concerned, don't care. This is a win for us. Because women have had their way this whole entire time. It's time that men got their word. Now, I think it's awful that women go through this stuff. I really do. But as far as this verdict, don't care. It's our turn. It is our turn for the very first time ever. It is our turn. And I don't mean to sound cold when I said don't care. But literally, don't care. This is our turn. You know, I understand what she's been through. I understand what our daughter, what her sister and my sister-in-law went through. I understand that. I really do. But they get sympathy for that. We don't. Why?
It's not socially acceptable.
We pee standing up. Literally. That's especially here in Virginia when it comes to like custody battles between a man and a woman over the kids. If you got a penis, you'll lose. That's the way it is here in Virginia. And that's really sad. It really is. Because I know a lot of my friends who have gotten divorced over the years whose ex-wives are crack addicts. But they got the kids regardless. No job, no nothing, no car, no anything. You know, this is our turn. Men stand above it now. And because Johnny Depp was bold enough to do this,
to fight it,
to fight it, and won. And thankfully, we had a jury. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, the jury is mostly men. Yeah, well, screw it. Maybe that's what had to happen. Doesn't matter one way or the other. There's at least 2 women on there. So as far as liberalism is concerned, that counts. There's 2 women there. But I was so happy to hear everything read. Is why is she not in jail? Why are her witnesses not in jail? Her sister, why is she not in jail? Everybody on her side perjured themselves, especially Amber. And the jury, there's been some that's actually come on Twitter, which we don't have, but we've seen them on YouTube, where they've actually been talking to people saying that, well, this is what we saw, you know, and everything during the cases, and we knew she was lying. Well, why is she not in jail? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess perjury in court doesn't matter anymore. It don't mean crap. My ex-wife, when we were going through a divorce in the courtroom, perjured herself left and right. She never went to jail. But, you know, apparently, you know, we take the oaths, you swear to tell the whole truth, not the truth, and everything but the truth, or this, that, and the other. Just look at them and go, I had beans last night, so I might fart in court. There's your answer. It doesn't matter anymore. And that to me is aggravating. But she got hers in the end regardless. And she will get hers in the end eventually regardless. But still, like I said, I heard her doing the video.
And before anybody thinks that that's a threat to her, no, that's just that you will reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. I mean, you'll get yours in the end. But it's a very painful experience to go through, and I was seeing, you know, every time they would pan to Johnny, I was seeing a side of Johnny that I can understand. They always say, well, he never looked at her. You can't. But I saw the pain on his face, and even when he was testifying and everything, you know, they would complain because he would crack a joke once in a while or put somebody in their place once in a while. You know what? That's all you've got left, is a sick sense of humor, and it's
twisted could not, because of what you've been through.
It's twisted because of what you've been through, but at the same time, because you never got an opportunity to make something stick with her, you can make it stick with the person you're talking to. So basically, I can't say this to her in a snappy comment because she's not going to get it. But if you're questioning me, I can say it to you and get everybody in the room to understand where I'm coming from. Because that is how you vent. And that's what Johnny was doing. He was venting. He might not even realize it, but that's what he was doing. Especially when the guy says, you know, well, you poured a mega pint of wine. He just kind of laughed. He's like, well, it was a big glass. I think it was deserving. I get it. I totally understand. But he laughed the mega pint off because, one, it's a ridiculous statement. But at the same time, he can defend what he did to that guy, whether he wants to believe it or not, doesn't matter. He got his chance to vent and get somebody in the room to understand where he's coming from, or in TV, whatever. He can get whoever can understand, because that's how you vent. It really is. I would do it. For years and years and years and years, I lived at the bowling alley, and was even owned the pro shop there. And I would vent like that, not realizing that's what I was doing.
You would vent like that at work. You would vent like that at home.
At home.
Yeah, it's been 9 years on a healing journey for both of us, and there's been some rough patches as far as not violence between us, but as far as emotionality, and dealing with the emotions and the...
You have to be willing to talk through it.
And you have to be willing to listen.
Yeah. Because she understands sometimes when things trigger me, and I understand sometimes when things trigger her. And we stop dead in our tracks and discuss it, so there's no animosity towards it whatsoever. And it might sound cold, but before I mention it, I have forgiven my ex-wife for everything. But when I recently found out several months back that she had died, I knew what it was. She had OD from pills. She'd become a major pillhead. I don't know if that's what it was, but that's my theory, because I got to see it before everything was finalized.
She had overdosed on him a couple times.
Yeah.
Slit her wrists in the bathroom.
She tried to commit suicide on me one time. Nothing like cleaning blood out of the bathroom. That's something you'll never forget. Having your wife arrested in the emergency room to put her in rehab, which she signs herself out of 3 days later. Don't know how that happened. I'm supposed to be the one to sign her out since I had her arrested. But,
and then getting kicked out of the house because of it.
Yeah, get kicked out of the house because of it.
Yeah, but we've been married a long time. So.
But, yeah, we've been together for almost 10 years now, so, wow. This explains why I'm white and getting old looking. But anyway, it's, kudos to Johnny, really, for that was really hard for him. And I'm saying that only because I was there for a lot longer than he was. A lot longer than he was. And it takes guts to stand up like that. And I am so glad that he won. Not because of, here's Johnny Depp, man. We want, whatever the pirate's name was, to win. But that's not what it was. It could have been anybody up there. I just wanted to see justice for men who are mentally and physically and emotionally abused by women. Because...
And here's the thing is, what society doesn't understand is it takes a really strong man not to hit back.
Yeah.
Not to throw the knife back. Not to react. It takes a really strong man not to be abusive back.
But this is the reality of the whole thing. And Amber was right when she said, who's going to believe you, Johnny? You're a man. Society has been molded to where no matter what happens in a marriage, no matter what happens, the woman's going to win. So, if you think about what happened in London in a divorce settlement, basically she won. Why? She's a chick. She's got tits.
The divorce settlement was separate from the London thing. The London thing was him suing the magazine.
But the whole thing, when it came to the divorce or whatever, she got her $7 million or whatever. She shouldn't have got anything. But it doesn't matter. She's a chick. And she's going to win it.
Well, that's the law in California.
Now,
no matter how long you've been married.
I don't care what state you're in. I don't care what state you're in. It doesn't matter.
Well,
But, you know, if he had said, you know what, I'm out of here, I'm leaving before you physically hurt me, you know, with his you know, severed digit and everything else and all that, she still would have won. Well, you got to pay her alimony, you got to pay her this, you got to pay her that. You know, well, she abused me. Who cares? You know, she can't abuse you. She's a woman. That's where society has led us. And you know, in my divorce with my last, you know, with my abusive wife, ex-wife, if I didn't have a separation agreement, which ironically was right at the tail end of not being legal anymore,
It was still legal, but barely.
I wouldn't have walked out of there like I did, because she agreed to no alimony, no support, no nothing. You got your stuff, I got my stuff, I'm gone. She agreed to it, signed it, swore in court. I don't remember signing that. And I told my lawyer, one of her personalities did, because her signature was on that paper. One of her did. I don't know which one it was, but one of her did. And the judge accepted it. And he even told her lawyer, I can't go against Virginia law. I can't make it up as I go. I have to say what the law says. And I was like, oh, thank you. But, you know, I bought this house that we're in right now in 2004. I finally moved in here in 2015, 16 years later.
It took him...
I had my stuff in the storage unit the whole entire time.
We lived in an apartment before she vacated the premises.
Yeah, she left the premises, abandoned it. In Alabama.
It was in terrible shape.
Yeah. It was this close to being, what do they call it?
Foreclosed?
No, not foreclosed. Where you can't
Condemned.
live. Condemned. Yeah. Real bad shape. It took us a month just to get the house halfway to where we could move into it, because this is her words. A house should take care of itself. I ain't got to do nothing to it. Okay. That's just her thought process. So yeah, this house was shot. And $30,000, I actually figured the other day, with the last thing we have to do this house right now, $30,000 we spent on this house since I moved back into it. So what does that tell you? What she did to it? New plumbing, new electricity, new roof with plywood, new insulation,
new underlayment,
$30,000.
new plumbing,
$30,000.
and now new electric.
But it's my fault because I have a penis. Isn't that stupid? Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to put my 2 cents out there, because people just don't realize that, you know, guys do go through stuff, and there's still once in a blue moon, I will have a flashback and snap back into the way I was at one time. But I try my best to keep myself away from it.
Post-traumatic stress. That is true post-traumatic stress. That you do, you know, something will trigger you and you'll just shut down. But it took him 6-7 years to even unpack. He kept his clothing in lockers and his, but it took him 6 or 7 years to unpack his clothes. And what was that, living here?
Well, she'll even tell you that when we first moved here, you know, I had all my stuff, and I had boxes I had made. I had military crates I had stuff in, and all that kind of stuff. Because you got to pack and run. I lived out of a duffel bag.
Not everybody has 5 or 6 houses like Johnny does.
I lived out of a duffel bag the whole time I was married. As long as my dog had a roof over his head, I didn't care. Slept in my truck I don't know how many times. But we were putting the kind of bringing stuff in over from the apartment or whatever, and it didn't happen at the apartment. It didn't hit me at the apartment like it did here. But we were bringing our clothes over here. She said, you could have this whole side of the closet to yourself, and this is mine or whatever. And I bet you 2 or 3 weeks went by after we moved in here that I still have my stuff in the boxes.
2 or 3 weeks is more like 2 or 3 years. That used to.
No, I'm talking about when we first came here.
Yeah, that you kept them in that Foot Locker. It took you 2 or 3 years after we moved in here before you would unpack your stuff.
But when I actually finally put my stuff on coat hangers and put it in the closet, I actually broke down crying. Because people don't understand. Because I told her, I said, I haven't had things in the closet in I don't know how many years. And it was yeah. To actually close out the storage unit that I had for 15 years. To actually take my basically my closet, which was a big locker that I made, to give it to her to put her yarn stuff in because my stuff was in the closet. I don't have the words. Men go through this too.
And it's just as traumatic.
And it's actually worse for men.
Because it's not acceptable for them to talk about it.
Well, no, it's easier for a woman. Now, I'm gonna get feedback on this. It's easier for a woman to go through this because they can leave and it's over with. All they have to do is get a restraining order and it's over with. A man,
not always.
No, a man cannot get out of the situation because he knows he's screwed one way or the other by the legal system. It's easier just to stay in the house and take your beatings because it's a whole lot cheaper than giving away 3/4 of your paycheck every month. Now, I'm not talking about money. This is not the fact of money. This is the fact of a man's pride, a man's dignity, more than anything else. Not pride so much, but dignity. Because I can either leave
sense of self
and have a natural life, but the thing is, she can always say, nope, I'm not divorcing you. Not doing it. But you're going to pay me every month, and I'll sue you for the pay, and she'll get it. So it's harder for a man to go through abuse than it is for a woman to go through abuse because she has the law on her side. We don't. So if you want to comment and say I'm full of it, I'm willing to come out guns blazing. I'll fight. I'll fist fight you over this one because it's a woman has got it made when it comes to this stuff as far as
legally
the legal side of it. Men don't.
Now
we're screwed
the
regardless.
enforcement of it's a different story. We understand that as far as the restraining orders and whatnot, but you are right. Women do have, but that's because men don't come forward. Men don't talk about it. They don't. I mean, when you left her the last time, the guy that you co-owned the shop with, the pro shop and the bowling alley, what was he told you? Just go back to her.
Oh, you guys gotta make up. And there's that and the other. Yeah, and I found out that he was buying his pills from her. You know, and he's supposed to be like my best friend. So, you know, that's right. He got his in the end. That's last I heard. He lost his house, his car, living on the streets pretty much, and everything else. So
well, it goes back to you reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. I hate that, but because me and him are really close. I really hate that, but you know, I can't control it. So that's all I gotta say about all that.
Thank you for joining us. And if you lasted this long, thank you so much for your time. Yahweh bless you and keep you and give you shalom. Until next time. Yah bless.
Aquaman.